The papal doctrine of discovery via the papal bulls Romanus Pontifex in 1455 and Caeterta in 1493 granted Christian nations the right and duty to claim and settle new lands as a providential mission. Manifest Destiny was a Protestant repackaging of these same ideas that is mostly compatible. I do not grant I was here first, therefore it is always mine. We have to examine what was here first and why it needed to be settled. If they had had libraries and educational institutions and a unified system of government and courts of law, Greek philosophy, like what the indigenous Europeans had prior to conversion, it would have been a smoother transition. But they had none of that. They were, to quote one of my best friends, who is part Apache, savages. Now, the Pope had commissioned the evangelization and settlement of the Americas, and the Protestants modified it where they saw fit in Manifest Destiny style as well. They all believe in God to improve the lives of the savages and to expand Christianity's influence around the globe. The French will go to Canada, the English to Jamestown, and the Spanish to Mexico and South America. This land is our land as whites. We have the right and duty to defend it against all enemies. And we have. Foreign, being the English, France, Spain, etc. And domestic, being indigenous Indian tribes initially. Other invaders, arguably, currently. Preserving the civilization, our bloodlines established. To be a white American Christian is to claim this full inheritance without shame. Our ancestors conquered and established the Republic, wrote the Declaration of Independence, who fought in the Revolutionary War, and wrote the Constitution. We conquered the domestic and foreign enemies. We built the infrastructure of the country, from railroads to roads, architecture, and more, all the way up to today. We adopted Roman law and Greek philosophy and Christian religion. This location is effectively settled now. It is no longer in need of colonization or evangelization, and its status is a defensible, sovereign state. And ultimately, the same for Canada and South America, and the later Oceania. All has occurred with minor but differences of governmental forms. Largely all have inherited European Roman law, Greek philosophy, Christian religion, broadly speaking, modern agriculture, medicine, education, libraries, and institutions. All have ended cannibalism, and Christ is recognized as King of the Americas. This makes Romanus Pontifex, Caeterta, and Manifest Destiny all a great success in the evangelization of the world. Much of the revisionist history that is promoted in so-called higher education currently is false and anti-Christian in its roots and full of myth and many lies. For example, smallpox blankets. These were lies, but yet we hear it repeated all the time. Just one of many. Do I defend every action of every colonist? No. Do I need to? Also, no. Am I Machiavellian? The ends justify the means? No. I'm just a Christian working towards Christian ends. And the Christian evangelization of the Americas is arguably distinctively Christian at its root, and the pattern that was used in the colonization and evangelization of the Americas in the second millennium is simply a repetition of evangelization of Europe, which happened in the first millennium. So to destruct the second millennium evangelization, these people first need to deconstruct the first millennium evangelization, Europe. And that is what the liberals, quote, liberals of today are trying to do. Of course, I hold that Christianity is not something to be rediscovered as if lost, but is something that is received and passed down in word and tradition. So I'd put evangelization and colonization and exploration as the fruits of the Great Commission in the Bible. It is the reversion to the archaic religions that is an anti-Christian attempt to restore the ancient pagan. Now that's why everybody who says, oh, you know, the real Native Americans are the indigenous tribes, not the white people. Well, they're also, who says that? They're always a bunch of gay lesbians, and they're always witches. This will ultimately result in what we believe as Catholics to be the apocalypse. So we're ushering in the end of the world. The ushering of the apocalypse, because as the left has risen to power, the old world order has been weakened. Christendom, the church, the family, this is the old world order. White European Christian countries all over Europe are now under attack, with white populations not keeping up with open border policy, allowing African and Arab Muslims in. It's the organized demolition of the old to make room for something else, different and new. While the women have become gay and are practicing witchcraft, the men are left with dreams of places like Rhodesia or Third Reich Germany. The hand of what is left of the existing so-called right wing is now forced to become hard right, far right, as it sees conservatism as afraid to wield the power of the sword. We now will embrace fascism. And I'm not talking about Trump. He's a moderate Democrat and a leftist. I'm talking about Hitler. And so World War III that is coming will be a continuation of World War II, which never fully resolved. It will be the old world order of white Europe and white America against the new world order in whatever form of anti-Christian government it decides to take, be it Islam or communism. Neither are acceptable to native white Europeans and native white Americans. And this is a chastisement, and this is the beginning of the end.